I think this question ties into chapter 18, but then also to what has happened Saturday. Let's get started. Let's get started. When you think of the word benevolence, you think of charitable acts or an organization that is designed for charity. And usually, charity generally supports a positive cause. At least that's what it seems to be. Chapter 18: Benevolent Fronts Assault Local and Global African Markets. Amos Wilson explains the facade of corporations, investors, businesses, and beneficiaries display when setting up shop to consume the pockets of African Americans. Question number one: why do white planned and finance projects cause more harm than good to black communities? 4 points I highlighted. It first denies the decisions from black people, where our interest is not the primary and it's pretty much set aside. And it's developed by outsiders. It diminishes blacks from solving their own issues because, again, they're the ones that are in control. And we're not at the forefront of it all. We're not able to dictate what works best for us when we are in a process of development.
To me, the main thing is the control.
Mm-hmm.
And with our history, that should be, something that stands out the most is that if you don't have control over your financial well-being, um, and you're giving it to historically another group that has, especially in this country, I mean, focusing on the United States, has damaged you and controlled, manipulated, done everything um, that's that could be horrific to any group, but specifically to us, focusing on us, just a horror show. You give control to that group in particular, anybody else, but focusing here on that particular group, you're you know you're insane to do so. It's obvious you need to have control over your community financially, and so many other things flow under that. Once you have control, you make the decisions. Again, it's obvious. So you make the decisions. You plan your future. There's a pride, that intangible pride that younger generations see. Um, that it's you when they look up to somebody who's in a position of power, in the community. They're not looking outside of the community necessarily. You're seeing that business owner, that political leader.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's us. You're seeing us.
Page
Hmm.
449, I mean, Amos Wilson says, African Americans ultimately must solve their own social and economic problems. And when you have outside governmental agencies, foundations, nonprofit organizations plan and execute developmental programs for African Americans, they do so in their own alien interests and for their own benefit, not in the interests and for the benefit of the African American people. So again, it just goes back to the control.
You look at it that way, you're not lulled into thinking, "Oh, this is for our well-being, our community's well-being," and you kind of forget that what you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
You're dealing with an alien entity. Mom and pop, and you can have somebody who's up front and who's not from the community, but nice and talks to you and friendly. Just some, he had some examples here. Are some of the, owners like, oh yeah, the business here would be good. There's opportunity here,
Right.
obviously, because you've got a dense population and you've got people. You treat them right, they're loyal to you. But we're not in ownership. We're not in there making the profits with them. We're not welcome to the table at all.
And you
So
know what I was thinking with this is it's kind of like they study us to know,
Yes.
like for a
Yes.
lot of blacks, they're so flat fashion conscious. They
Yep.
want to buy stuff and look good. So it's like we're not even thinking that we can change things by maybe buying from others and maybe not being so desperate to look well, because with this the article that you were talking about with the low income and high profile and the apparel, blacks wanting to look nice and just
Mm-hmm.
not even thinking that this guy, he's not really helping the community. All he's doing is getting his pockets fat and rich.
Yeah, and that goes into the second question on how important it is to identify retail initiative versus philanthropy. And you said it yourself, Ethel. Like having a supermarket, I mean, yeah, sure, that there's a way to get food. People can, feed themselves, feed their kids and stuff, but it's all about who is behind it, who owns that, what is the initial intent of having this supermarket? Because yeah, there's access to food, but then what kind of food? Is it processed? Is it organic? The average person just may think, well, philanthropy, because for them it's just a way of means to get food. And it's like, yeah, but then there's another layer to that they do not see. Why is it important to have the infrastructure and financial system in place before funneling money as a black community? So I think this question ties into chapter 18, but then also to what has happened Saturday. So a few of us as the BAIO members, we went to a Zoom call meeting that another organization was proposing a Pan African mega fund to invest in industries in Zimbabwe and basically make that as just like the main, I guess, bank for African diasporas to like invest in. The flaw that I I came across was it just didn't seem concrete. It didn't seem concrete because it was a proposal, and from what I saw, nothing wasn't really set in stone. It was just, we're in the works of doing this, and we just want you to, be a part of it. And some people are just ready to jump in and say, well, oh, I want to donate, where do I go to sign up, or yada, yada, yada. And then they had to explain, well, if you donate, that's going to go to our organization. We haven't got this set up yet. And then there was more questions from other people, from the BAI, but mainly just from their members as well as new people that were just like kind of scratching their heads. Well, if nothing isn't set, then what are we actually doing?
Yeah, I can't. I've attended several of their meetings, and I kind of figured that was going to be the situation with this one, and it
It's the
overlapped.
same one that we're
Mhm.
talking about, or just a different
Yeah.
one?
Oh, yeah. I'm a part of. I signed up when they started the group.
Oh,
When they
okay.
Wow.
started, yeah. So I listened some of it because I it overlapped with another group, and I didn't get to listen to the entire uh, Zoom meeting,
Wow.
presentation, what have you. But I kind of figured that was going to be the case because uh, things seemed kind of a little bit chaotic. But it was the idea is wonderful, but at this point, yeah, there's so much that has to be, that needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of figured it was going to kind of go that way.
Presentation to me matters. And
Hmm.
the way it started off, I mean, okay, networking, that's bound to happen, right? 300 people plus.
Hmm.
But then I remember Holla was, he called it the day before. Um, we had one of the spokesmen in the panel they started, just explaining their story of their experience in the AU, the African Union, and how we got to stick together. White man this, white man that, and just it was just a ramble for like a good 20 to 30 minutes. And
It
then we
was a
got
mess.
to the agenda.
I said it was a mess because I
I-
I had time to call somebody, talk to someone, cook dinner,
Yeah.
and they still just saying the same old
Still
nothing.
going. I mean, I laugh because that time limit that's been asked in meetings before, and there are people who just ignore it. I understand getting passionate about a topic, but sometimes I'm laughing like you've been going for like 4 or 5 minutes, and you need and it's like people are volunteering. There's an energy. I'm telling you, there's some good folks who really want to do something, but it is that organization.
Yeah.
Uh,
Because it was just too much talk about money and different avenues for raising money, like with their membership, and then they have donation, and then they talking about the fund, and that
yeah,
was just a little bit too much without having a concrete proposal. Because if even if they said they don't have the information for the fund, but you can say this is our proposal, and the proposal has already been written, you can kind of flow with that. But if you're saying, okay, well, we're just talking about writing a proposal. And then you don't say, okay, what should we put in the proposal? What are we talking about?
hmm
Here's a thought. These are conversations that need to happen in private and not in public.
that's
If you
another.
haven't even developed the fund, why are you even talking about it?
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say how it was presented. It's like, it seemed like there was something in the works, right? There was like no,
No, they
several
still
steps.
in the they have to
Yeah,
get they don't even have the finance people to put the thing together.
right, exactly,
Because we've been
exactly,
having the same conversation, but we haven't been having it publicly.
right,
Right.
right, right.
So you come out there, make an announcement, get a Zoom call with all these people on it. And what scaring me is the willingness of people to just throw money at something where they don't have no clue where their money is going. Did you notice that on the call?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, where can I send my check? It's like, nigga,
But
what are you
some, but
talking?
and let me just say, not that it's an excuse, but some of that again comes from the energy from past meetings, where even if it's something, it's like, okay, we've got, I think it's one volunteer to help out with like the backlog of emails or one person on staff, and it was like, okay, we're trying to. It seemed like legitimate. We're trying to get things going, so people were suggesting ways to uh, gather money and do it so that it's transparent and get things moving, get a staff, get because there's a huge backlog of messages.
I know too many people who've been taken to the cleaners
Yeah.
because their wanting and willingness to help their own people was used against them
Yep.
for a
Mm-hmm.
dollar. And it's
And that's
Mm-hmm.
happened
something.
too many times.
Absolutely. And that's something, matter of fact, from this chapter, what I was thinking about when Dr. Wilson talked about blackface on white-owned and controlled projects.
Mm.
I was also thinking about the charlatans, the people who have no problem with presenting themselves one way and robbing us, you know, robbing
Mm-hmm.
their own folks, robbing us.
Hmm.
And I was like, and my question was, well, talking about the blackface on the white-owned and controlled projects, why, why do so many, why does that happen so often? And reading through it, I was like, I can't, but it just seems like, is it systematic? It's like, yeah, it's set up to encourage folks with that mindset to, to prosper and then to leave. Here's your payoff. Get out. We've got whatever the cable companies are or channels that are supposedly black owned, but they're not. They might be black operated or black fronted, but they're not,
Mm-hmm.
really black owned. That type of thing. And
Hmm.
it seems like it happens like, okay, we build this business, 5 years later, 10 years later, then it's gone. It's like it's not, And I was like, why has it happened so often, so many times?
Because we don't have solution-oriented leadership. We don't have leadership with a vision for the people. They don't have a vision. Like, all right, let me give you an example. Like, to get back on the topic that Amos Wilson was talking about.
Mm.
A lot of mom and pop a lot of mom and pop stores get forced out by big corporations like Walmart and stuff like that. Why does that happen? It happens because the big corporations can buy these items in bulk and charge less per item.
Right.
So the consumers getting that same item for less. Now, if they go to the mom and pop store, they got to pay more
Mm-hmm.
because they don't sell in bulk. And what this causes, it causes the consumer to be like, "Oh, these guys trying to rip me off." They don't understand how it works.
Right.
Now, how can we solve that? What's the solution to that? It's a really obvious one. Create our own Walmarts
Yeah.
so that we can buy in bulk from companies, black companies that produce products for us. Problem solved.
Think. And that's
So, am I brilliant? I don't think so. I don't think I'm brilliant. So, there can only be one reason why nobody's thinking about this stuff, because they don't give a fuck.
I think it's folks who do think that way is too dispersed. It's too, you know, folks are all over the place, and it's
Right.
more people getting together that have that mindset. And I was thinking, I said, in my opinion, when I was looking at page 465 when he was talking about, collectively, talking about banks, um, black-owned banks where savings and receipts of black consumers and business people are deposited means that the black community, it's a paucity of that. The black community lacks a systemic mechanism for transforming those deposits and receipts into expanded credit and just basically um, how we develop means that collective working together and keeping the money, you know how they say, within, having it turn over so many more times within the community before
Mhm.
it exits the community. And I was thinking, I had a little side note. I was thinking, in my opinion, at this point, in order for us to really have something successful as a community, if we're talking about here in the U.S., means um, reaching out to other black folks in the Caribbean, on the continent, um, black folks in Europe, worldwide, and having that network. Because if we're to do it right here, if you're just talking about something here and trying to keep it within the community, it's to me at this point, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen at the level that I think would be something that would be sustained.
You're under.
This was in early '90s, and I said maybe at that point, but now I don't think so.
You usually when you give it money, you did some type of political exchange. What's the benefit that we're getting out of helping you in your government situation, and we don't have one of our own? Then what's the difference of that and being here in America?
Right.
And a straw man is the whole taking land. We already have the land. We already have it. This was already done. Nobody. It's like everything is just scattered all over the place, and it's vague, terminology that people use. Oh, well, we have to speak as one united voice. Well, okay, who's we? Who you talking about? What's the base of operations of this one united voice?
Right.
It's very vague, and it's intentionally vague. Because as long as it's vague and as long as it's confusion, we won't ever organize. What
There.
is the infrastructure in which I'm putting my money into? If I
Right.
send underrated mine $20, I send it through Zelle, send it through at Cash App. There's an infrastructure in place where he can get my money. Where's my money going when I send it to you?
What I liked about this chapter and just the ones that we've read, these are things that people in our community have to really ask about and have to really identify, because
Right.
anybody can have an idea, But if it's not organized, if it's not being implemented, then it's just useless. It's just that, an idea or a
Right.
proposal. And
Right.
when the rubber hits the road, and you have out of those 300 people asking real questions and really putting the pressure, you'll see those members start to fold and just, say, well, uh, it's like, what?
Yo, son, ideas don't mean anything unless it's all a question of who implements the idea first.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the days, me and my people had an idea for sampling George Clinton in Parliament Funkadelic before anybody else was doing it.
Mm.
Guess who came out with it first? De La Soul. We had an idea for incorporating martial arts movies into our music. Guess who came out? Wu-Tang Clan. Black men couldn't catch a cab in New York City. There was an idea there. Guess who came out with it? Uber. Ideas don't mean shit unless you implement them.
People want to be entertained.
Yep.
Not talk about, educational stuff or be upgraded or explore their thinking. Everybody is just looking to be entertained.
Chapter 19 next week will be the paucity of Black wealth. As always, thank you for participating in today's book club.